Welcome to our presentation. This is the lesson 4 of user interface design for games. We are discussing that in player-centric user interface design, you need to know what the player wants to do in the game world, and you should allow the user to do those things. And before that, little bit of advertisement. JustEtc.net, our software web development and consulting service, university.justetc.org, online and offline training, mall.justetc.org, online shop, computer.justetc.net, short notes and training videos on IT and software development. Now, what the player wants to do? He wants to move around, look around, interact physically with non-player characters, talk to friends in network multiplayer games, wants to customize a character or vehicle. Please watch our previous video, you will know more on this. Also, the player will want to pause the game so that he can go to the washroom or answer the phone call or something like that. Set game options. Maybe you should allow the player to increase or decrease the volume, or provides different options to customize the game and to change users experience, and maybe display font size and those things. Maybe if something goes with the player. Save the game. You should not force the player to play the game to finish the game in one sitting. Maybe you should allow the player to save the game and start from where he left, and in the game there should be some ways to terminate the game easily. It should not be through multiple process or multiple menu options, something like that. It should be straightforward and easy. Now, what are the steps in designing user interface of games? I think game design, it actually happens in 3 steps. First is the conception, and then the elaboration phase, and then the tuning phase. In concept, you develop the game design concept. In elaboration, you just elaborate on your game concept. I think at the starting of your elaboration phase, maybe you should work more on the gameplay, defining the gameplay and defining gameplay modes. When you will be done with your gameplay modes, then maybe you can come to the user interface design process. You can just start. Maybe sometimes it may work that you can define the gameplay and the user interface in parallel. Maybe after 1 or 2 gameplay, you can start working on the user interface. Okay, so user interface design process, it involves I think 5 different steps. First, define the gameplay mode first. You have to define the gameplay modes first, then you have to choose a screen layout for the game user interface, and then you have to tell the player what he needs to know. Maybe you have to think about the controls or mechanisms of the user interface through which you will propagate the information to the player. Then you should think and implement think about the controls or the mechanisms to allow the user what she wants to do. Then the shell menus, it's some configuration options of the games, just increasing, decreasing mouse, or those kind of shell menu. Maybe also setting the level he or she is trying to play. Anyway, why you should not do the user interface design in the conception phase? If you try to do that, it can happen that your game can change a lot, your gameplay can change afterward, or even the investor, they may not be willing to invest for the game. So in that case, maybe lots of your work can get wasted. The overall design may change dramatically at some point, so your user interface work may get wasted. And also user interface, the gameplay also will define the user interface, because through those feedback elements you need to show the information the player needs to know, and also using the user interface you need to allow the user to do what he wants to do. Now, what information you need to present to the player, or what information input you want to take from the user player, it can also depend on the gameplay. So it's better that you define the gameplay first. Now, What does the defining gameplay mode first mean? You have to select the camera model for the gameplay. You have to select the interaction model for the gameplay, how the player will interact with the game. Camera model, what type of view you will show, maybe where the camera will be to show the game world, which part of the game world you will show, or from where it will be, from the top, from the side, from the bottom, from north, south, whatever. Yeah, you have to decide those things first, define the gameplay first, then comes the user interface. At least you should define the primary gameplay mode first, even doing any sort of work on the user interface. You can start the elaboration phase with gameplay. After defining gameplay, you can come to the user interface. So you can begin to create the details of the user interface after the primary gameplay mode is designed. Maybe initial gameplay design, plan the structure of the game using flowboard. I think it's about gameplay design, how you can design the gameplays. You should plan the structure of the game using flowboard. You also need to think about the story related activities in the gameplay, and also how the narrative will interrupt the gameplay. Narrative will be introduced, and how interrupt those narratives and come back to the gameplay. For a small number of gameplay modes, maybe you can start your user interface design as soon as you understand the different modes of the gameplay. But when there are too many modes involved, maybe you should wait until after you have planned the structure of the game. When you have got a total grasp of the structure of the game or the different gameplay modes, then maybe you can come back to user interface design. And also you need to understand how the game moves from one gameplay mode to the another gameplay mode. So when you have got understanding of the gameplay modes, you start to think about user interface design. Maybe you can think about the visual elements and control elements each mode will need to provide information to the user or to take input from the user. You can use graph paper and diagramming tool such as Microsoft Visio to define the visual elements or to define the control elements. Maybe also think about the devices. I think we can also define what input devices will do in each of the game mode. I think defining input devices, this is part of the user interface design, not part of the gameplay. You can use flowchart of progression. You can use flowchart of progression of menus, dialog boxes, other user interface elements that you plan to use. If different gameplay modes share the same user interface but can define the just differs in gameplay challenges, in that case maybe you can the same user interface element that will work for all of those game modes. Maybe you can combine those into one, or you just don't need to worry much about for individually for each of the gameplay modes. You can just devise similar controls for all of those gameplay modes. Okay, sometimes it's important that you build a prototype. Maybe in the initial phase of user interface design, build a prototype. You can use Flash, Microsoft PowerPoint, and Blitz Basic to create some prototype user interface to show the different elements and also allow the user to interact with the user interface and try to get some feedback and see how things work or not. I think the good designers, they always build a prototype in the early stage before it's too late. Thanks.